Welcome to Creation in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Carl Baugh, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Now, the title to today's program is Big Bang Fizzle. I'm fully aware that the entire academic posture on a global scale is that of Big Bang cosmology. I'm fully aware that even at major Christian universities, naturalism is taught in one phase or another. I'm fully aware that to question the Big Bang origin of the universe might be a bit of heresy. But now, I want to talk to you about some facts today. I want to talk to you about some published data, not just one man's opinion. But now there are only two categories, and leading cosmologists, those who are involved in the research of how the universe came into being, how living systems came into being, acknowledge that either it's all through a naturalistic concept, the Big Bang theory, all through a naturalistic concept whereby from a very tiny particle of matter, super dense, super hot, an explosion occurred, and in 10 to the minus 52nd of a second, it expanded to incredible dimensions. Well, now, physically, that's absolutely impossible. There is no known mechanism, there is no known physical experience to equate with that, yet it is held to because that's the only way to get where we are without a God. So, therefore, the Big Bang theory is the only ball game in town. Well, quietly behind the scenes, the data we find are accumulating to the point where that has to be questioned very seriously. So I'm calling this the Big Bang Fizzle. Now, according to this theory, there was a tiny speck of matter, but where did that speck of matter or energy come from? The current theory is that quantum fluctuations in the fabric of nothing created variation to the point where energy can be expressed. That is absolutely bizarre. Yet, that is the current best explanation. You have to have a cause for everything. So, quantum fluctuations in nothing and the fabric of whatever it might produce would create a tiny speck of imaginably dense and imaginably intense energy, therefore the Big Bang. But there is no experimental data to verify that. There's no way to verify that. In fact, the math is so bizarre, it is not even functional, but it gives an out to the mind that will not retain God in its image. So according to that theory, from nothing came something. Well, now, we've been criticized for generations in believing that God created the earth and the entire universe out of nothing, but God had himself. So his energy spoke this into existence, so it really wasn't a creation out of nothing, and there is scientific evidence that there has to be a God and a designer to all of this. So, who is now with egg on their face? Who is holding the bag with nothing in it? The Big Bang cosmologist. Even though it's the only ball game in town, it is held to because if we abandon naturalism, the only answer is supernatural creation by a knowing, knowledgeable, compassionate God. No other concept of God will work. All of the pagan secularistic concepts of God, a cosmic egg, all of that will not hold water mathematically and scientifically. The only thing that works is the God of the Bible. So, is Big Bang theory tenable? Not at all. But according to this theory, in a moment of infinite temperature and density, you have a 10 to the 12th second of inflation, 10 to the 5th second weak forces, strong forces, end of nuclear synthesis, 10 to the second power of seconds, all faster than I can explain it. According to that theory, in 300,000 years, the universe became transparent. Origin of the microwave background. Then you have ultimately, according to this theory, the formation of quasars and galaxies. And then, according to that theory, current universal chaos realizing itself in the chaotic mind of man. That is, in essence, the theory of the Big Bang. Not only is it expressed in cosmological astrophysics, even though it is simply theory, nothing to back it up. We're going to see in a moment that the data contradict it. But it's even expressed in the biological ascent of living systems, according to evolutionary theory. You have to be consistent in all details. According to this theory, there was a Big Bang. Energy and mass from that Big Bang coalesced in our Milky Way galaxy, formed our solar system. And this was formed sometime after the Big Bang, because according to that theory, you have carbon, some of the heavier elements, iron and nickel and aluminum and silicate materials form from the dense core of distant stars. Therefore, according to that theory, we are star babies. Our father is a star. Our great-great-grandfather is a meteorite, according to that theory. So, according to that theory, then we have material to fashion an earth. Living systems begin to evolve and continue to evolve from the Paleozoic through the Mesozoic era of the dinosaurs and into the Cenozoic era of the mammals, and ultimately the mind of man in its chaotic disposition realizes his place. Therefore, the universe is man, man is God, and all of this is one snug concept of the Big Bang. Man is not God, even though he would like to be and attempts to impose himself as God. Well, there are major problems with this. Even in not only technical journals that most people do not read, but in journals that are read by the populace at large. Crisis in the Cosmos. The universe is too young and it's headed in the wrong direction. Everything is being carried towards some distant point somewhere beyond Orion. 1 billion light years worth of matter is sliding sideways across the universe. When did the universe begin? Well, one theory-busting discovery after another. 2 billion years younger than some of the stars it contains. Wow. Rather than expanding outward in a stately fashion like the rest of the universe, a collection of many thousands of galaxies, including our own, and spanning 1 billion light years or so, may be speeding in mass toward a point somewhere in the direction of the constellation Virgo. In addition to that, we have paradoxes. The universe is young, with an age between 7 and 11 billion years. Such a youthful universe poses a paradox because some stars are thought to be 15 billion years old. All of those years are, of course, simply postulated. And Dr. David Otway Ray published a tremendous dissertation, discovered a tremendous fact, and is publishing that in a dissertation, that when you add the expansion of space fabric, you dilate time in very short order, and while in deep space, you may have 7, 11, 17, 20 billion years of time having expired because of the expansion of space fabric, but all within a very short time frame consistent with the chronology, the time frame of the Bible, just a few thousand years. What you need for that is a God who can expand the space fabric. Well, and that's amazing. Only the God of the Bible is capable of doing that. And the Bible states that in Psalm 104, verse 2, that he stretched out the universe, the heavens. Isaiah chapter 40 explains the very same thing. He stretched out the space. Psalm 22 and 2 Samuel 18 and Psalm 22, we have the very same statement that God stretched out the heavens. Therefore, those tremendous time values could be there, with younger stars involved, depending on how far and what portion of the fabric of space God stretched. Did you get that? God can stretch space uniformly. He can stretch it incrementally. He can stretch it wherever he wants to, and therefore, when man looks at deep space, they find some stars that are younger than they're supposed to be, some older than the fabric of space around them, all because the God of the Bible stretched the fabric of space. That being the case, deep time and deep space is no problem, but the Big Bang cannot explain it. This concept of the Big Bang in decades past was taught only when you had a committed student at the graduate level of university study. Then the commitment came at the high school level, and the undergraduates at the university level had to commit to this concept. In fact, if you do not knowingly commit to some form of this, at most universities you cannot receive a science degree, and that is an incredible tragedy. And that's against all the foundations of our country. But not only has it gone from graduate level to undergraduate level to high school, now we have the children being taught the very same concept. I went to a fine store in geology. I dig dinosaurs, as you probably know. Have the privilege of being the discoverer and the director of the excavation of 16 different dinosaurs, from Stegosaurus and Allosaurus to Diplodocus. Marvelous dinosaurs, all involved in the creation of God. Now watch closely. I went to this store and wanted to pick up some books, general study, and I picked up a child's book, and it stated, from the dinosaur speaking, this is your family tree. It goes back 4.5 billion years after, from the Big Bang, the Earth's crust had solidified and had formed. 1.5 billion years, bacteria and algae, all in your family. 600 million years, marine invertebrates appear, so that's consistent with what Charles Darwin said when he learned that man came from the mindless brain of a squid. He said he shuddered a bit. Well, man did not come from a squid. But according to what these children are being taught, 440 million years ago, air-breathing animals appear, so you were a reptile, and then a bird, and then dinosaurs, and then more complicated dinosaurs, and then another bird. That's a reptile, the birds are here. And then modern mammals appear, and the line brings us to 10 million years, when we broke off somewhere around that time frame, about 6 million years ago from the great apes, and 30,000 years ago, modern humans developed. So according to that theory, every child is the result of mindless, inorganic material. What an incredible posture to take. But will it work? Well, let's start right here. In order for the Big Bang to work and to produce all the living systems and man, you're going to have proteins, because these proteins are necessary to form the cells and the system of living being. But now, let's do some math on this. To assemble one short protein through random, undirected shuffling, we need to make the following calculations. 1, all of these zeros, divided by the number of seconds in 20 billion years, that equals 1.585, et cetera, times 10 to the 243rd power, random changes per second to achieve the correct order to form one short protein in less than 20 billion years. I'm saying we have a Big Bang fizzle. That will not work. The biological systems will not work. Well, what about the formation of the stars themselves? Will that work? Astronomers estimate that there are 100 billion galaxies, and that's a conservative estimation. They estimate there are 200 billion stars per galaxy. Astronomers claim that the universe is 20 billion years old. That's 6.3 times 10 to the 17th power of seconds in 20 billion years. Let's do the math. 100 billion galaxies times 200 billion stars each equals 22 times 10 to the 22nd power, divided by the 6.3 times 10 to the 17th seconds in 20 billion years, equals, let's do the math, 3.1746 times 10 to the 4th, or, watch this, 31,746 stars per second would have to have formed from the beginning of the Big Bang to this point. Yet, we have never seen a single star form. Every second, 31,746, 31,746, 31,746 would have to form. So the Big Bang fizzles. But let's take it a step further. Recent published studies have contradicted the Big Bang concept. The Big Bang concept is, let's see if I can explain this over television so you can appreciate it. Concept is, there's no special place anywhere in the universe. The Earth is not in a special place, even though that contradicts the data. But according to the Big Bang, Earth cannot be in a special place because that would make the Earth and man special, and man can't be special because there is no God, according to the theory of the Big Bang. Well, watch. According to that theory, the expansion occurred, and the expansion continues like the shell or the surface of a balloon. And the more expansion occurs, the more each of these galaxies and the stars separate from each other. It's expanding like that on a flat surface of the balloon, according to the standard evolutionary concept of the Big Bang. So as it expands, each of these galaxies expands further from the other. And that being the case, if that were the case, there could be no axis to the universe. Nothing could be central, no special place. You put it all together and it comes out rather homogeneous. On average, no special place anywhere. There cannot be anything special because that would infer a God was involved. Well, let's see. Recently, publications were made. The Rochester Theory Center for Optical Science and Engineering at the University of Rochester made the discovery after analyzing radio waves emitting from distant galaxies. The data they looked at have been published over the years by several independent groups of radio astronomers. Here's what they found. Our observational data suggests that there is a mysterious axis, a kind of cosmological North Star that orients the universe, said John Ralston of KU, professor of physics and astronomy. That is incredible. That verifies from the data, attempting to do away with any special relationship of creation. That verifies, however, that there is an axis, there is a design, there's a pivotal point to all of it. Well, let's take it beyond this. The Big Bang theory cannot answer a major problem. That is the mind of man. There are technical data showing, published data showing, that one single human brain, an average brain, is more complicated in its structure than all the rest of the natural universe combined. One brain, more complicated than all 225 billion galaxies, each comprised over 500 million stars, or if you want to put it, 100 billion galaxies, each comprised of over 200 billion stars. You put it all together, one human brain is more complicated than all of those combined. A major problem for evolutionary theory. But now, let's take it a step beyond that. I brought something special to the studio today to show this audience. This is a global audience, and if evolution is true, I brought your great-great-great-great-grandfather. to the studio today, I thought you should see him. If evolution is true, this is your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather removed many, many times. What is this? This is the Allende meteorite. This is one of the fragments. Even as a fragment, this is quite valuable. It impacted, along with many hundreds of other meteorites in larger portions, impacted, I believe, February the 8th, 1969. I stand corrected, but that's approximately the date. And this, according to evolutionary theory, with its tiny little chips of diamonds, with its aluminum silica, but basically with its carbonaceous structure. Carbon compounds are here. According to evolutionary theory, this is the oldest rock in our Milky Way galaxy. Wow. And certainly the oldest rock in our solar system. And from this rock and these carbon compounds, living systems evolved on planet Earth. From these inorganic compounds, non-living compounds, according to evolutionary theory, living systems evolved with protozoa, with bacteria, first with enzymes. But Sir Frederick Hoyle and Chandra Wickramasinghe published that the chance of a single enzyme forming, and one enzyme won't do any good. The mathematical and scientific chance of a single enzyme forming, and if it forms in a matter of minutes, it dies because it must have a host. But a single chance of one forming is one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power, according to those eminent scholars. So scientifically, it just won't work at all. But let's assume for a moment it did. If it did, then you came from that rock, or one just like it. You're here as a result of the Big Bang, if that's true. But now, I have an article here from scientificamerican.com in which an eminent professor wrote an advanced article that will later come out in the standard publication. And he said, a careful examination of the results of the analysis of several meteorites led the scientist who conducted the work to a different conclusion. Inanimate nature that is not living, just chemical rocks, has a bias toward the formation of molecules made of fewer rather than greater numbers of carbon atoms. And this shows thus shows no partiality in favor of creating the building blocks of our kind of life. Oh, really? But I thought the entire Big Bang was predicated on their being able to do that. But it won't work. He goes on to say, when larger carbon-containing molecules are produced, they tend to be insoluble, hydrogen-poor substances that organic chemists call tars. And then he went on to say, suppose you got some amino acids out of those. He said amino acids such as those produced or found in these experiments are far less complex than nucleotides. Their defining features are an amino group, nitrogen and 2 hydrogens, carbolic, and a group of carbon, 2 oxygens, and so forth. The simplest of the 20 used to build natural proteins contains only 2 carbon atoms. So he said you can't get the nucleotides out of this process. You might get some amino acids, but not the right acids, and you can't get the nucleotides ever. So he said it just won't work this way. Well, I'm trying to tell you, none of it will work. While the academic posture is there must have been a naturalistic Big Bang, we're the result of cosmological universal processes, random processes. Therefore, Charles Darwin removed any need for a God. No, he didn't. God is still smiling behind the scenes. Jesus is still like when he stood over against the treasury and watched the little lady cast in her mite, the little widow. He said, she's given more than all the others. He knows what's in the heart. The pompous scribes and Pharisees and academics may strut their position. Jesus is still watching and God is still on the throne. Would you let him be enthroned in your life? You see, this Creator God of the universe made his way into human history approximately 2,000 years ago. He made his way through our streets and loved our families and our children. Then he made his way to Calvary. We crucified him. We buried him. But he arose from the dead and is alive at this moment, asking entrance into your heart. Would you pray this simple prayer? Dear God, I open my heart to you. Lord Jesus, I need you to forgive my sins. I need you to cover my sins with your blood. At this moment, I ask you in. Come in right now and save me, and I will serve you with all my heart. The moment you have the living Creator within, you have a new dimension of reality. You have a new understanding of what's going on, of life origins. You've embraced the Creator. You know He's alive. In fact, man innately knows that there's a God. They have to be educated out of knowing there is a God. By nature, man knows there is a God, but he has no fellowship with that God. By nature, man knows there is life after death. He's just not sure where it is. By nature, man knows he has sinned, and he has no liberty from that sin. By nature, man knows there's a judgment, and he has no hope in it. By nature, man knows that there's death, and he fears it. But if you prayed that simple prayer, embracing Jesus Christ, you don't need to fear death. In fact, beyond that veil of tears, the embracement of God welcomes you home.
Creation in the 21st Century has been sponsored by Trinity Broadcasting Network. And only with your love gift of support can this program stay on the air. So write to Creation in the 21st Century, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.
Creation in the 21st Century is a unique program on TBN combining biblical knowledge with scientific verification. Much of the information that I use on the program is available. Contact us. Just write Creation Evidence Museum, P.O. Box 309, Glen Rose, Texas 76043, or call us at 254-897-3200. We look forward to hearing from you today.
What if Bible prophecies are true? What if the end of the world is at hand? Only one book dares answer these questions. The Shadow of the Apocalypse, When All Hell Breaks Loose, by Paul Crouch.
We have gone through the